This video is gonna be the best.
Action.
Okay. It had been raining softly but relentlessly the whole day when me, my brother, my grandparents, and my parents were all in this small town in the south of Spain. And eventually we resorted to just sitting outside of this cafe under their umbrella, drinking coffee for like 5 hours to escape the rain. But at this point, in like late afternoon, everyone was kind of sick of the whole thing. And my dad, brother, and grandma all decided to go back to the Airbnb. But I was being a little bit stubborn like I am with my family. And I told them, like, no, I want to stay and I want to see what we came here to see, which was the processions that they do in Spain during Holy Week. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically like a parade kind of thing during like the week before Easter, Holy Week, in which people carry these giant floats, statue things from one church in the town to the other side to another church. And I had never seen it and I was really excited to see it, so I was like, no, I want to stay. I want to wait the rain out and see it. So they all left except me, my grandpa, and my mom, who I forced to stay with me. And eventually we started making our way up this big long hill to the other side of the town where we thought the procession was going to start. But we weren't really sure when or where it was starting, so it was kind of like going on a wild goose chase a little bit. And my grandpa was walking through the city like very frantically, just asking random people where they thought it was, where it was starting, if it was even going to happen, because sometimes with the rain they'll cancel it. So we stopped like literally every person we passed on the corner and he asked them, and we got pointed in various directions saying it was starting over here, over there, and as we kept going we got more and more confused and more like in a rush, thinking we were going to miss it. But eventually we finally turned down the street and saw about a dozen people lined up on either side of the road. And even then we weren't totally sure this was it, because in my mind at least this was this big event, this whole like ordeal, and everyone we seemed to ask didn't really even know what was happening or know if it was going to happen, so they were kind of like careless about it. But we were like, okay, there's about a dozen people, this must be it. So we leaned back on the building, like on the side of the road, and kind of just like, well, okay, we'll wait. And then after a few minutes, I heard like in the background, like a trumpet and drums and bells, and the sound approaching and coming closer. And we were like, yes, this must be it. So I was looking and my eyes just glued in that direction, waiting for something to come. And first we saw like 30 women dressed head to toe in black, carrying these long, tall candlesticks with the flame like flicking in the wind. And we heard their like high heels clicking on the cobblestone as they were turning the corner. And they passed by, and then the band came through, and there was like these, like probably 50 people playing these instruments, and it was just very like powerful cinematic music playing. And then finally we saw the big float, which had these gold and dark blue like details all over it. And it's being carried on like the shoulders of a bunch of people. So there's people on either side of the float and then some people underneath holding it. And this weighs so much, it's humongous and so heavy. And they're all walking like back and forth in sync. So seeing it come down the street, it's just a very overwhelming, like all-consuming sight. That's like all you can look at, and you're kind of just taking it all in. And it's going back and forth, swaying super heavy back and forth like a giant, like coming down the street. And in that moment, they came to the corner and they passed under this window where this woman was out on her balcony, and she started throwing these white rose petals out, and they just came pouring and pouring, like she must have had millions of them, endlessly down like snow. And I remember just looking up, and it was like everything about this moment, like you could not take your eyes off of it. The music soaring, the petals flowing, this giant massive thing being held by like on the shoulders of just people. And everyone watching was very captivated by it in the same way. Like no one had their phones out recording it. No one was even talking. Like we were all just equally like entranced by it, which I think is a unique thing, especially like no phones. Like nowadays, I think it's hard to come by a moment like that. And I remember it was like starting to get late. It was dark outside and it was cold, and I felt this like coldness on my cheek, and I went to touch it and it was like a tear streaming down my cheek, and I hadn't even realized I like started to tear up. And I think I had that like physical reaction before I even had like a mental or emotional one. And I looked over at my mom and saw her also, like tears welling in her eyes.